welcome to another episode of People in Politics. We're very honored today to have a very good friend of mine and Congressman from Ohio's 13th District, Congressman Tim Ryan.
Always a pleasure, Robert.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming on board. I can call you Tim, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure that everybody understands this. I'm about 5'6". You're how tall?
About 6'4".
Okay, about 6'4".
Yeah.
So is it bad that my producer was going to make me sit on a phone book to be able to do this interview?
Yeah.
I finally convinced him not to do it because I was a little bit upset that he had
Get
to
the kiddie seat out. I can sit you in so you can be in the booth with all the adults.
I really appreciate you being on board.
You got it.
And you've been involved in politics for a long time. We've been friends for a while.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your political background. You first started in the Ohio Senate, right?
Yeah, back in 2000.
Okay.
I was 26 when I was running, 27.
Another overachiever on People in Politics.
Yeah, you know. And yeah, I went into the state Senate, and then as soon as I got in, really, we had redistricting, and the Akron district with Tom Sawyer was put in with then the James Trafficant district in the Mahoning Valley, and it was about 60% Mahoning Valley, about 40% Akron.
And you grew up in the Mahoning Valley, right?
Yeah, I grew up there, you know, went to Catholic school there, played sports there, you know, all throughout Mahoning and Trumbull County growing up, so had, you know, been around a little bit, I guess.
Sure.
And then Trafficant got in trouble and was on trial, so there was a Democratic primary, and it didn't look good for him. You know, it looked like it wasn't going to end well.
Yeah.
And so I was in the state Senate, and you know, these congressional seats, redistricting doesn't happen very often. It looked like the chance, you know, the chance to get into Congress. And the state Senate wasn't very fun at that point. Republican House, Republican Senate, Republican governor.
Sure.
You know, it was like Democrats can go sit in the corner. They'd pat us on the head and say, "Oh, that's a cute idea." Not going anywhere. So it was a good time to try to make a move. And
how many people were in the primary?
We had about 4 or 5 were from the Valley, and then Congressman Sawyer had Akron and Portage, and no one else ran from Akron and Portage. So his bet was, I need to win Akron and Portage. And no one ran from Mahoning County. Everyone was from Trumbull.
Wow.
So he figured I can get Mahoning, at least a good chunk of it, with Portage and Summit, and win.
Yeah.
And my bet was I need to be the Valley candidate and scoop big margins in Mahoning and Trumbull, where I'm from. I was from Niles, grew up in Niles, but went to Catholic school in Warren JFK. Okay. So I kind of had the 2 biggest cities where I had at least a lot of contacts and some name recognition.
Sure.
Plus I just ran for the state Senate.
Yeah.
So my bet was the Valley hopefully will rally around me. I was young, I was new, there was corruption, and you know, I was kind of the new fresh face with no ties to the past. And that's how it worked out.
And they gravitated towards you. And you've been in Congress ever since.
Ever since.
And you've been through the good times for Democrats and the not so good time for Democrats. And so you've experienced all of it now.
Yeah, came in under Bush right after the war. Things were very polarizing in 2003, 4. And then obviously, you know, the unraveling of the Iraq War, the economy wasn't good, and worked my way into House leadership. We started, Speaker Pelosi at that point wanted to start, was called the 30-something group.
Okay.
And it was me and Kendrick Meek, who was a congressman from Miami, and then the next election, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So it was us 3, who's now the head of the DNC. Us 3 would go to the House floor sometimes 2-3 times a week, and for an hour do a special order. Now there was nobody in the chamber.
Yeah. It's one of those C-SPAN ones where only political geeks like me watch it, and you're the only one there.
Yeah, and we were getting our message out, and then so in 2006 when we won the House back, you know, then Speaker Pelosi said, you know, what committees do you want to be on? And I said, well, I've got to go where the money is, Appropriations. And
that's fantastic.
And that's kind of how that unfolded.
And you're still on Appropriations to this day.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Gained more seniority. I'm on the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee, which is the biggest one now. And it's a lot of fun because you're in the mix with all of the foreign policy stuff in the Middle East, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, you know, the pivot to Asia.
Sure.
This is stuff that we work on, you know, every day. So that's very interesting. And then transportation and housing, which I think is really important on how we retool our neighborhoods, our downtowns, and then the general investments into our public infrastructure. So it's a lot of fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
So more importantly than being a congressman, you're also a dad.
Oh, man. You know how to hit my sweet spot. Yeah, Brady. I've got two stepkids that were my wife's. I've been married 2 years now. So Mason is 12,
Great.
Bella's 11.
2 years yesterday, right?
2 years yesterday.
Congratulations.
How about that?
That's great.
Yeah. You know you're getting old. Guess what I got her for anniversary?
What's that?
A blender.
A blender.
I broke the golden rule of never buy your wife something.
Yeah, that's great.
She was so excited about it. It's like the ninja kind of, you make shakes and all kinds of
that's
stuff.
Awesome.
So yeah, and I know how to make her happy.
That's
yeah,
great. And Brady's going to be 1.
And Brady will be 1 in June 12th.
That's fantastic.
And it's just been a lot of fun. The last few months I've had some real quality time, babysitting him and really being with him, and it's just been a nice bonding experience. It's just so fun.
That's great.
I tell my friends, I'm not going to tell you when to do it, but you got to have a kid.
That's
at
great.
Some point. Yeah.
That's great. So I've been fortunate enough to have guests on the show, including yourself, who've been on national programs. You just recently were on Anderson Cooper,
Wait a
right?
minute. This isn't national?
No, it's not national.
Oh,
I'm sorry. You're out of here now. But you were just recently on Anderson Cooper, right?
Yeah, the 60 Minutes, where Anderson Cooper was the host. The host, yeah.
That's great. And it was all about something called mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
Okay, tell me a little bit about that.
So mindfulness is the practice of being in the present moment, like actually training your mind. It's very much a mind exercise.
Meditation?
Meditation,
okay.
Yeah, a form of meditation. People say, well, what meditation, like it's all one thing. Meditation's like sports. Mm-hmm. You say, well, I play sports. So you say, well, what sport do you play? So there's meditations that are religious based. So that's how I came into it through the Catholic faith. There's a meditation called centering prayer, which is Catholic Christian based. And then there are other more secular meditations. Mindfulness is very secular, and it's about being in the present moment. So your mind goes to the past, the future. The best example of being mindless is when you get in your car and you drive to work for 20 minutes and you arrive in your parking spot and you go, how did I get here?
Yeah, exactly. Or just being at home, because my wife tend to think I'm mindless all the time. So either which way, it's fine, parking spot or
so
not.
Your mind goes to the past and the future, and this trains it to be in the present moment. So you follow your breath or your body, and you just kind of discipline your mind.
It's a lot of training.
A lot of training. Your mind, they call it monkey mind. Your mind's all over the place, a monkey jumping around in the cage. And the thing about it really is, like with Brady, for example, my son, there's a natural mindfulness when you're around a kid. You just everything else drops off and you just, boom, you're with the baby.
Sure.
Any issues you may have go away, at least for a few moments, because there's like a magnetism that the babies have. So it's a training. And the Marines are doing it now, and we're working very closely with the Commandant of the Marine Corps to figure out how to ramp this up to the entire Marines, because they are one day in a firefight, and the next day they're patrolling a civilian village with moms and kids, and if they bring too much of yesterday into today, you can really have an international incident and a big tragedy. So the Marines and the Special Forces find this a very appropriate training.
Sure.
So the Seattle Seahawks have a mindfulness training.
Wow, that's
the last
great.
few years they've implemented it. Phil Jackson.
Obviously, it's worked very well for these guys.
It worked. I mean, athletes are coming more and more to it because, being a peak performer, you need to be in the present moment. You can't be, a ditz. You can't have your mind wandering all over the place. Does your mind control you, or do you control your mind?
Yeah.
And so I see a lot of young professionals doing it now. It's a great stress reducer, because really, what do you stress out about? Mm-hmm. Worrying about stuff that happened that you may have screwed up, which put me in that category, because we're all human, or worrying about the future, how are we going to make a living, economic inequality and the anxiety that comes with that, your own personal health. That drives up your stress.
Sure.
And when you're highly stressed, you don't really make good decisions, which again is why the Seahawks, Phil Jackson did this with the Chicago Bulls, Los Angeles Lakers, now the Knicks are doing it, and there's applications to schools.
Sure.
So, what parent doesn't want their kid to get their face...
To be more focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need it now more than ever because, and like I said, it's secular. It's not religious.
Sure.
But what more do we need than our kids that are able to mobilize their attention span and get their face out of their electronic device?
Sure.
You know, you call their name 4 times and you're yelling by the 4th time.
Yeah, exactly.
And they pick their head up and go, "Why are you yelling at me?" Well, because this is the 6th time I've called your name out in the last 10 seconds.
And you've traveled all over the country promoting this idea, right? You wrote a book too.
Yeah, wrote a book.
And what's the name of the book?
A Mindful Nation.
Okay.
And it gets into the science because there's a growing body of evidence on what this does for your brain. They put an fMRI on your head, and then they send monks or other people in to meditate, this particular kind of meditation. And it coordinates the different hemispheres of your brain. It lights up your prefrontal cortex, which are where all your executive functions are, your working memory, your attention span, decision making, all key components to learning.
Sure.
Also increases areas of your brain for empathy, which I think is a very important component of education.
Especially to have in Congress too might work
well. Yeah, we all need to maybe do a little bit more.
And you lead a group in Congress too, right?
Yeah,
I think
we have a weekly for the staff and for members of Congress.
Do you get a mix, Democrats, Republicans?
The staff session is really great because there are Tea Party staff members and there are Democratic staff members, and they'll grab me in the lunch line and say, "Hey, I work for a very conservative Republican, but this has been very instrumental for my own stress relief," or whatever the case may be. So it's cool to see.
Great.
I really think it can cross partisan lines, and you look at the Cleveland Clinic's doing it, Ohio State's doing it. Someone just told me the other day, Akron Law School is putting in a mindfulness program because there's so much stress. If you're in med school, you're in law school. It's like it doesn't have to be that way. There are ways to de-stress. We figured out how to put gyms everywhere and get our muscles strong.
Sure. Let's get the biggest one stronger. Yeah, that's great. And it's good to know that, you're working with Democrats, Republicans on this. And that's basically what People in Politics was about, was to show the person behind the politics. So that's very refreshing. I think the viewers will really appreciate that too.
When we do economic development, especially whether it's in Akron or the Mahoning Valley, we don't ask who's a Democrat, who's a Republican. We want to create an environment where business can thrive.
Exactly.
And sometimes that means public investments for roads, bridges, transportation, workforce development.
Sure.
And sometimes always means private investment.
Sure.
And so what's that balance? Now, who cares who's a Democrat or a Republican? We're here to create jobs and generate economic activity.
That's great.
You're going to always have your national fights and arguments about philosophy, but that can't define, I think, the job.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, one of the questions that I like to ask all the viewers, which will probably give them more insight into your background, is who's your favorite American president and why?
Wow. Well, I just watched Lincoln the other day, so it's tough. I'm still emotionally
you're still emotional.
Oh my God, this guy was great. I went to Kennedy High School. I think President Kennedy I think he defined kind of the modern presidency in the sense of what it's supposed to be, in the sense that the president is to set the tone, be very aspirational in what can happen, and then make these investments, whether it's we're going to go to the moon or the Peace Corps or Vista. I think he kind of set that tone and then made the proper investments to empower the population. It's not command and control.
Sure.
And I think he provided that. To watch Bill Clinton, I think, operate, especially with a Republican Congress, and to really be able to. He beat him. I mean, politically, Gingrich came on strong. A
lot of maneuvering that
and
happened.
it was the old rope-a-dope, and it was very smooth politically. But I think you look at Lincoln, you look at Jefferson, for example, knowing that we've got to make these investments into the country, and that there's a role and a responsibility for the government to protect and have a level playing field for people in the courts, in the eyes of the law and justice and all the rest. So I think that, to me, those handful would be tough to pick one, but that handful of gentlemen, and hopefully soon maybe a woman, who knows?
Yeah, that would be good for you, right? That would be
the
great.
First woman will be my favorite president.
That's great. Well, this is probably going to be the toughest question I've asked you so far.
Uh-oh.
So I want to be very serious on this one.
Yeah.
Cavs going to win the championship or not?
I'm feeling good.
Are you?
I'm feeling good.
I'm feeling very good right now,
I'm feeling good, but, you know, I still have the emotional scars of Michael Jordan over Craig Elo, and it's just nice to buy Cavs shirts, and, you know, like, I'm excited about the Browns. I'm anxious to see what they do as far as, you know, with the draft. And
we're always anxious about the draft in Cleveland with the Browns,
well,
right?
I mean, you've got to be optimistic in politics, right? You've always got to be hopeful.
It's
and
good.
I can't find any better training than being a Cleveland sports fan, and you've got to be resilient. And
it's the resilient, optimistic approach all the time. That's good.
But wouldn't it be sweet?
It would be. It would be great. And, I'm going to be out there rooting on the Indians and the Cavs, and then we'll see what happens after the draft with the Browns.
Indians need some.
They do. They need
pitching.
to kick it into gear.
Yeah,
they will. I think they will. They've
got a few good
slow.
pitchers, but yeah, they got to.
Yeah, I think they'll be ready to go. But let's root on those Cavs. Absolutely. And all you guys out there, too. Cleveland sports fans, root on those Cavs.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's great.
Shake free of your emotional baggage. We can do this.
Yeah, LeBron, mindfulness. That's it.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you coming on the show, but you'll be around for a very long time.
I will always come to this highly regarded national TV show.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, you're a very young 41 years old. You're not going anywhere, and I've been very impressed with you throughout your political career, and we'd love to have you back on again.
I'll be back.
So thank you very much. And thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of People in Top Politics. We're looking forward to see you guys again soon. Thank you very much, guys. See ya.